What is up, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. That's where you can find all of our great content, and the link tree in our bio will take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show, make sure you head on over to the DSM YouTube channel specifically. It's the best spot to get your comments, thoughts, questions, and concerns pulled up all throughout tonight's show. I am one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host Scotty. You can find him on Twitter @ScottyDrown as well. It's another Victory Monday here in the Philadelphia, South Jersey area. Scotty, what's going on, my man?
Not much, man. Not much. I'm in a good mood. Obviously, it's Victory Monday, so I'm feeling right. Start the week off right. And what's up, Adam? It's been a while, man, since I've seen you in the comments, especially over on YouTube side. So thanks for checking in, brother. I'm glad to see you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the Eagles season so far. But yeah, man, who couldn't be happy right now? Like, we're in a short week of work. Like, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, like, you got your holidays. You're going to get some football on Thursday. It won't be very stressful. There's no Eagles games. You got to be happy especially if you're in the area, man. And the World Cup started, man. I mean, it's entertainment, if nothing else. I don't watch a lot of soccer, but it gives me a little bit of entertainment throughout the day. And USA failed me, but we digress from that.
Away with the tie, right?
The tie. I hate that about soccer, man. And I hate that about, like, when football and they get into overtime, like regular season.
It doesn't make much sense to me, man.
I hate it.
Especially on such a large scale like that, right? I'm with you. I'm not the biggest soccer fan around. I'm not the most knowledgeable
about the World Cup stage.
But yeah, like you're in the World Cup and you can tie. Like,
draw.
I know.
Game over.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. Like, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know if that's like an international thing.
I
get it's like a point
maybe it's
system.
Maybe it's just me and you. Maybe we just don't understand it that extent.
I want to win.
Right? But listen, man, there's some room to be negative. I mean, if you're a Sixers fan like the two of us are, Ben Simmons makes his return to Philadelphia tomorrow night, and the Sixers are playing with me and you.
It's so annoying, man. Like, it's so annoying
across the board. But let's start with why some people are positive and why somehow, Scotty, some people are finding ways to be negative. And we'll start right here with our Eagles Colts reaction. The Philadelphia Eagles improved to 9-1 on the season after a 17-16 victory in Indy yesterday. Before we talk about the offense and Nick Sirianni, before we talk about Jonathan Gannon, before we talk about Jalen Hurts, et cetera, Scotty, tell me and tell the people why they should not have that negative energy today. Why should you not be negative about the Eagles today? Because, like I said, it was a 17-16 win. At this point of the year, a win is a win, Scotty. And I feel like some people are traveling back to week 1 against Detroit when, they didn't beat the Lions good enough. The Lions scored 32, but whatever the case may be, the Lions scored 35 points. It doesn't matter. At the end of the year, if the Eagles finish, 14-3 or 13-4, is anyone going to dissect the 3 or 4 losses and or the wins and say, well, they only beat the Colts? But did the Kansas City Chiefs win in Indianapolis earlier this year, Scotty?
Right.
They didn't.
That's a great point, man.
But anyway, tell me and tell the people why Eagles fans should be positive today.
Yeah, because you won. Like, it's simple as that. Because you won the goddamn football game. And there's a lot of positives you can pull. There's some negatives that you can pull from it, and we'll talk about them, of course. Like, it wasn't the perfect win, right? And it's
an
never
ugly
going to
win.
be that. It's never going to be a perfect win, right? You're never going to do everything that you're supposed to do. But they got the W, man. They got it on the road. And I think the main thing here, we cannot forget that the Colts coming into this season were regarded as a pretty solid football team. They were in the talks to win their division, right? Go up head-to-head with the Tennessee Titans.
I believe they were favorites to win their division.
They got off to a slow start, right? They look like a solid football. That defense is good, man. Like, I know the Eagles didn't do everything they're supposed to, but that defense is really solid out there. But nonetheless, it's a good win. And the reason it's a good win is because you went through some adversity and you came out successful. That's the difference, right? Last week, you went through adversity. You had chances to win. It felt like a decent loss, right? There were so many opportunities that you missed out on. You did not want to go through that the second week in a row, and it looks like they learned from it in a sense, right? They were able to get the stop. Brandon Graham capitalizes, gets a game-clinching sack a week after he gets a game-clinching losing, right?
Yeah, and he said he'd make up for it.
And penalty. He said he'd make up for it. He made up for it, man. They're learning, and that's part of the process. That's part of this regular season thing that we're trying to do is build those winning tendencies. I love it, and the reason I love it even more, and this is in hindsight, right? Because
you don't love it in the moment.
I don't love it in the moment. Yeah. It feels like 2 losses for them. It should feel like 2 losses for the Eagles players. It should feel like they lost 2 games in a row, but in the record column, it does not reflect that. But nonetheless, it should drive them, motivate them, and ultimately humble them to an even further standpoint to go out there, work very hard in practice this week, and correct all their wrongs. So I came out of it very optimistic. I think, you come out of that game, there's a lot of emotions involved. Nick Sirianni returning home, right? Jeff Saturday,
and we'll get into the play calling and the defense and all of that.
Exactly. And there's negatives. There are.
Yeah.
But the overall insight to this game should not come out. The perspective should not be from a negative standpoint, in my opinion. We got to see the biggest concern coming into the season was Jalen Hurts. These last 2 games that have been deadly close, right? He has not been the detractor. And I think that's a big thing here as well, is that it's not Jalen Hurts that's actually flopping around. Now, obviously, the fumble at the begining of the second half, that isn't ideal, but that isn't all Jalen Hurts either.
That's play design as well. You probably don't want Miles Sanders out on an island edge rusher.
Exactly. But I love that Jalen Hurts has been the catalyst. He hasn't been the detractor. Yes, so, if anything, the coaching has been a detractor, and I think that's a good thing at this point.
So 2 things really quick. First on Jalen Hurts, I'm glad you brought that up because there's people out there, he got bailed out by the pass interference and they ran the ball and they only threw the ball 1 or 2 times on that final drive. He has not been a detractor, Scotty. And yes, while we maybe didn't see Jalen Hurts air the ball out for 5 completions and 75 yards on a game-winning touchdown throw and everything like that on that final drive, it wasn't just yesterday that Jalen Hurts has led a late offensive drive to either win a game or close out a game. You go back against the Cowboys, 4th quarter, it's 2017. Cowboys are rallying back. He takes them all the way down the field for a touchdown. Same thing in Arizona. Same thing against the Texans. Same thing here. He would have done it against Washington if not for the Quez Watkins fumble. So the fact that you're seeing all these late game moments of Jalen Hurts being calm, and you see him on the sideline, there's no worry. There's no stress. He's carefree. Yeah. A.J. Brown talked about it after the game. He's actually joking around with the guys right before that final drive, right? So he's loose, and that affects everybody else in the huddle in a positive note. But I want to jump on the why it's a good thing. Right. You said a very important thing there. It's a good win. And people, well, what do you mean? Bear with me here when I say this. It was a good win because it was a bad win.
Yeah.
Scotty, a lot of teams, when they don't have their best stuff, they lose.
Yeah.
The Eagles did not have their best stuff. They did not play their best game yesterday. And they found a way to win. And I'll say this. You brought up Nick Sirianni. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts basically won in spite of their head coach, who had been brilliant up until that point.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're going to talk about him in a moment, and we're going to talk about the flaws we saw offensively yesterday. But the fact that they were able to pull out a win, no matter how infuriating it was, you want to rip your hair out. How is this team down by 10 in the 4th quarter? It did not matter because of leadership by the young quarterback.
Yeah.
And I know people don't like to do this. Got to give kudos to John Gannon and the defense as well, because they are the only reason you stuck around in that game for Jalen Hurts to have a final drive. But people don't want to do that because they gave up.
You can't let that first drive mirage, create this mirage of what happened in this game. That was a defensive masterclass by the Eagles in a sense, man. There was so many times where the Eagles offense flopped, right? And gave the Colts the ball in good position. And the Eagles came up with monumental stops. You listen to the commentators. I don't know the guys' name. Those are the same exact commentators from Madden, right? I swear to God, those are the same guys from Madden.
Charles Davis,
Yeah, Charles Davis. That's the guy. He's the defensive-minded guy on the other end. And he was saying it was a certain point, I believe it was after that A.J. Brown fumble maybe, or it might have even been before that possibly.
Yes. Oh, my God.
He literally honed in and he said, if the Colts score here, if they put 7 on the board here, this game is over. And he's spot on with that analysis. He's right.
Yep.
And that defense held strong. Mind you, Sam Reddick got away with a little bit of a face mask. It was annoying to see that just because it was a mistake, man, but he did get away with it. Like, it is what it is.
I say
karma comes back around.
Matt Ryan wants to get up and bark. You weren't trying to keep the play alive, and you got a hold of your face mask.
Yeah.
He didn't pull, right? Whatever. He got away with it on a technical. Matt Ryan gave himself up a set. Matt Ryan was tucking and curling into a ball and was just being put on the ground. It just so happened he hit his face mask. I don't believe he grabbed in the face mask.
When you put it from that perspective, it could have been just, Matt Ryan falling to the ground, and that's where his hand lands because he's ducking and diving. So, I mean, that's a good point.
He didn't sack him and pull him down by the face mask or anything. Matt Ryan turned and ducked into a sack.
Matt Ryan isn't on IR.
And then he wants to get up and complain. Very, very frustrating, but a lot of big moments. And I'm glad you brought up the A.J. Brown negative as well. And you go back to Monday night against Washington. So I know they lost against Washington and they were able to come away with a win this week, but it's character building. It really is. And when you have your playmakers, your skill position guys, and all the, biting yourselves in the ass, essentially, and just so many self-inflicted mistakes. The Quez Watkins fumble on Monday night, the A.J. Brown fumble, the strip sack, the penalties by the tight ends this week. You were able to overcome all of it, and that's the biggest thing. It is a character-building win. And then you hear post-game, we could talk about whether Nick Sirianni should be, jumping on benches and riling up the crowd. Some people love it. Some people think it's corny, but apparently this game meant a lot to him because of Frank Reich and that relationship with the Colts, and the players wanted to win for him. And that is the biggest thing. It can be corny to you. I know it's not. I'm just saying it can be corny to a viewer. As if it's not corny to them, then who cares?
Only they know how much this game meant to Sirianni and to that roster and to that team. And Sirianni talked about how much Frank Reich meant to him, right? Like, it's one of his top three
and he clearly was unhappy with how it was handled, man.
He was unhappy with how that was handled, and he let the crowd know. And mind you, he's not going up to Colts fans. He's going up to Eagles fans in the stands once again. Like, a lot of this, like, literally mind your own business. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of this stuff is really like mind your own business from other fan bases. They always just have something to say when it comes to the Eagles.
And you know what? And my favorite part is, if you don't like it, should have won the game.
Yeah, win the game. Beat him.
Should have prevented him from doing that. How about that?
Beat him. Like, we gave the Colts so many opportunities. They gave us plenty of opportunities to win this game. We gave the Colts plenty of opportunities to put that game away. So, like you said, if you don't like it, so be it. It is what it is. It's not going to change anything that we're doing.
Let's dive into what really happened yesterday, though, and the negatives that played out. And I think the most glaring one was Nick Sirianni's play calling yesterday.
Yeah,
and a lot of it was mind-boggling to me, man, because again, you just have the imbalance of the pass and run. And early on in the game, you're texting me like 1st and 10, he goes 3-4 straight pass plays. They have to punt or they turn the ball over, whatever the case may be. It's like, dude, where is the run?
Yeah.
But then later on in the game, you're only averaging like 2.9 yards per carry, and you put Boston Scott in and go run from your own 30. Late in the game, before Jalen Hurts finally crosses the pylon for the score. And I mean, prior to that, with the using the timeout with 4:40 left, rushing the play call before the 2-minute warning, running Boston Scott 3 times in a row. So many issues with Nick Sirianni's play calling and timing of the balance of the run to pass. But I also did not like how it didn't seem like he adjusted for the absence of Dallas Goedert, Scotty. And what do we talked about early on in the pregame show, spread them out. And he did on the game-winning play. He did 5 wide. Jalen was able, you know what I mean? But it's like he tried to just replace Dallas Goedert's spot with a Grant Calcaterra, with a Jack Stoll, with a Tyree Jackson. All their inexperience showed. All 3 of them were penalized before the first half expired.
You look at
properly without Dallas Goedert.
And you look at some of the plays, man, some of these plays in the game plan, I just don't know about the scheme. Like, when you have Jalen Hurts rolling out to his right side, there's nobody in the middle of the field. Like, I don't know if that is just, guys not being where they're supposed to.
There's no safety valve.
You look up the field, and it's literally a guy over here, and then you have 3 guys congested over in this corner, and then the middle of the field is just wide open with nobody. And I just don't understand. I don't understand those play calls where basically it looks like Jalen Hurts has maybe 1 or 2 options when he's rolling out to the right. If they're not open, And some of those decisions from Jalen Hurts, just throw the ball away, right? Just throw the ball away. Simple. That was in the first half mostly, but some of those were head scratching as well. But
you got the 4th and 10 play call. You just a lot really went wrong. A lot was sour on offense, man. You brought up the strip sack to give the Colts points. The AJ
that
Brown
one turned my stomach, man. The strip sack turned my stomach because how do you go into the half and you come out of the half looking at the first half? What transpired in the first half? You come out in the second half and you say, let's draw up the deepest bomb that we can draw up. Yeah. The longest time that Jalen Hurts has to hold the ball for this play to develop.
Most about it, it was there.
It was there,
Quez was streaking, bro. Quez had about too long to develop. And the biggest problem with the play design is, if it's that long of a developing play, you shouldn't leave your running back on an island to block the defensive end. Especially not Miles Sanders, who has his issues in pass protection. So when you factor all that together,
I believe, as well.
It was a bad read. But this is it right here. Like, this is my point. It's like he just wanted to keep, and who knows, maybe going forward he adjusts this week. We'll find out more about it. But you're going to have about 4 or 5 weeks without Dallas Goedert, man, and you cannot just plug and play X's and O's and stick to your same script and just think that a Jack Stoll or a Calcaterra is going to replace that. Yeah. Not in a production standpoint. It's not like he was trying to get the ball to Jack Stoll, but you have to add something new. Utilize the running backs more. Utilize? Why can't you play? Why can't you have a script where AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and Zach Pascal are on the field together? You know what I mean? Another thing that stuck out to me, he came out of the half, or right before the half, or right out of the half, he ran 3 straight plays with AJ Brown standing on the sidelines. That should never, ever happen. So, I'm taking the win in a positive note, but Nick Sirianni needs to get his shit together going forward without Dallas Goedert.
How do you feel about the Miles Sanders usage? Because there's like part of me that
it's so weird.
There's part of me that goes to like the Eagles are fucking holding Miles Sanders back. Like he could like just be so much more if he wasn't on the Eagles.
Then you see the one run when if he
just cut it back inside and get the first down, bro. Like why are we trying
first
to
down? He would have went for 20 on that run if he cut.
So that's like the conniption, right? Yeah. That's the rock in the hard place we're stuck in between, because you want Miles to get more carries, you want him to get more touches, but then he does something like that where you can just cut it back upfield and all of a sudden we might have a 20 or 30-yard gain. So it is, I get it. It is a little bit
frustrating, man. It really is.
It is frustrating.
But I think we piled on Nick enough. So
I was going to add to the Nick comments, just 17 carries for your running backs. We talked about 17 to 20 carries for Miles Sanders.
Right.
So
meanwhile,
that's obviously not enough.
16?
Yeah, he had 16. Mind you, I do like the idea, I guess, of the design runs a little bit more. I guess, like, against that defense, it did work yesterday.
Right. And I don't know what Indy was doing on that game-winning touchdown. Like, I saw Dan Orlovsky's breakdown, and it makes sense with the concept what the Eagles were running and to draw the linebacker and the safety out. But my God, dude, the seas parted on that. On like the big, that was the game. You stop them, it's damn near the game. I know that was 3rd down still, and they would have had another play, but
full pressure on after
Indianapolis
that,
collapsed there. But and then the other thing offensively is the fact that Jalen Hurts was fine yesterday. Like 18 to 25, 190, not a ton of passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Obviously had the rushing touchdown, 16 carries, 86 yards. But just the fact that he was able to not be a detractor, he took care of the football. Obviously, I know he had a strip sack, but he did not throw an interception. He didn't turn the ball over any other time. And he just the poise, the leadership. Like I said, that can't be discounted when you're talking about a future hopeful franchise quarterback right now.
Yeah, I like what Abe said there.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. And it's another thing where how many teams yesterday or this past week would have taken an ugly win, Scotty? There's a lot of them.
That's what you got to ask yourself.
It's only Philadelphia, right? It's only Philadelphia.
Man, and the only other thing negative I'll say about this game is the whole I don't get the decision to like launch it downfield to Miles Sanders. Like maybe Jalen knew that dude was beat and that he would do that, like and get a pass.
Maybe.
3rd and 2, 50-yard bomb to Miles Sanders. Got lucky with the pass interference. It was a bonehead play by the Colts player, obviously, but that one was a head scratcher when I'm watching that go up, and then I see it's Miles Sanders on the receiving end. But you take it, man. You take those because look at the previous game. We did not get those breaks, so.
I believe the stat, because I saw the 17 points that with Indy. I believe it was that Indy is averaging 17 points on the year offensively, and that's what the Eagles held them to, or just under that, obviously.
I would have to go back and look.
People were I saw someone tweeted, I see praise about Jonathan Gannon. Why are we praising Gannon when this is what the Colts do offensively? Blah, blah, blah. I do want to talk about the defense. Because whether, and Casey, feel free to chime in here because I know he's disappointed in Gannon. And listen, I'm not a Jonathan Gannon guy. I'm not standing for Jonathan Gannon. It's not that I want him here in the future.
I want to give him credit when it's due.
You can critique his philosophies. You can critique, his scheme. And hell, I critiqued the hell out of it on Monday night. I just don't think he was a problem on Sunday. You held the team to 16 points. You gave up a rough first possession. You buttoned up everything after that. I think they gave up like 1 or 2 bad third down plays after that where you're like, well, what the hell is he doing? Blah, blah, blah. That was really it, man. I really had not many complaints about Jonathan Gannon yesterday. I know I texted you. Did I just see Josh Sweat drop back into coverage? Yes, while it should never happen. I believe it was my man Shane Half over at TPL tweeted something out about this. People blow it too much in proportion. Josh Sweat and Robert Quinn have dropped back into coverage 2% of the snaps on defense this entire season. So while we would hope it would be 0%, we do blow the 2% way out of proportion when it happens once or twice.
And especially, I was just about to say what Abe just put in the chat. When you see Aiden Hutchinson he has 2 picks on the season, it's just to confuse the offense. I get it in a sense. You just don't like to see it when you're down, right? Like when you're losing a game and you're giving up yards, you just don't want to see it. And I think that's a good point to kind of hone it in. Hindsight 2020, it's not that bad when it's just one play. But I think this is just it's one of those things where we'll find out about Jonathan Gannon, and I think it'll come probably in the playoffs when you play a really good quarterback. Yep. Like that's when we're going to find out, right? 100%. When we play a very good quarterback that can pick defenses apart. Do we get picked apart? Do we hold steady? We're gonna find out soon enough. So I'm not gonna sit here and nitpick on Jonathan Gannon when he's having a top 5 defense statistically all around. I'm just not gonna sit here and nitpick. Right. And shout out to Howie Roseman, man. You pick up
bring that up.
Linval Joseph. You pick up Ndamukong Suh, and everybody was saying these guys were cooked. We don't win that game without those guys, my guy. Like they made such a huge difference instantly. Just within 2-3 days of practice with the squad, they come in and they make game-changing plays. Like these guys were getting strong pushes in the run game. You saw them blow up a few running plays. Linval Joseph combined for a sack. That was a game-altering play. That was a momentum driver for the Eagles in that game. So shout out to Howie and shout out to both of those guys for stepping right in and making an immediate impact, man.
I think that was probably my most positive takeaway from the defensive side and from the entire game, really. In an ugly win, the 2 new additions really showed that they still have juice left in the tank. And you hear them talk pregame and postgame. Linval Joseph had maybe the funniest quote I've ever seen. I don't know if you saw it, but I forget what he said word for word, but we knew we had to drop our nuts or something. It was hilarious. And Sue just talking about having the chance to compete and how good it feels to get a win, and they looked good, man. And to your point, it wasn't just helping in the running game. It was helping disrupt plays, get in the backfield and create negative plays.
This is I like this. It might be, man, but you have to ask yourself as well with the whole Jonathan Gannon thing is like, why would Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh want to come play for Jonathan Gannon, right? Like, why would they want to come and step into this defense if he's just such a bad scheming defensive coordinator? These guys like him, right? There's defensive players that like this scheme. James Bradbury came to this scheme
for the reason
to prove himself. So I mean, I don't know.
I think Johnny Gannon
we're missing
something. I think he's definitely somewhere in the middle of the two extremes. Do I think he is boy genius,
I think that's a good way to put it.
Head coach worthy, how people hold him to the standard around the league? No. Do I think he is as bad and terrible as we saw last year with the lack of talent and how we freak out on him at times? No. Is his scheme mind-boggling? Like when you watch him sit back on 3rd and 2 against Taylor Heineke?
It's not.
100%. It's just not the move.
Mind you, I saw Michael Pittman running wide open way too much. That was very annoying.
To Casey's point here, I do feel you, but I think that's on us. I really do. I did not think that the Eagles' defensive line was their strength of the defense coming into the season. I know we like the depth and we like the rotation, but when you lose Jordan Davis and then obviously Marlon Tuipulotu, who is just but you lose him as well depth wise, and you don't have Derek Barnett to start the season. Fletcher Cox just isn't Fletcher Cox anymore.
Yeah,
Javon Hargrave was never going to be 6 sacks in 6 weeks again. Javon Hargrave, like he did to start last season. So when they're having to play 84% of the snaps because they're so thin up the middle, you do have to go and address the other two. And he did it in a big way. And listen, I agree with you. I think he's closer to mid than anything else.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's as putrid as sometimes we try to make the defense out to be. While there are alarming and bad numbers, especially against the run this year, there are a lot of positive numbers where he has this defense playing at a top 5 level.
I just wanted to check on this because you said the Javon Hargrave thing. He actually has had 6 sacks in the 3 weeks, not before this week. He had 6 sacks in the 3 weeks prior. He had 2 against Pittsburgh, 3 against Houston, and 1 against Washington Command.
You know what?
So he has, I know what you mean, though.
It doesn't feel like it, Scotty, okay?
I know what you mean, though.
Seem like he had the 6 sacks.
I know what you mean, man. And Casey's spot on with that comment. What was going to happen? Did we expect Jordan Davis to come in and just be like a 90% snap guy? Like, what was the plan?
Well, no, apparently not, because even when he was healthy, we were clamoring for him to get on the field more.
Right. So it is a little alarming. What was the plan? Yeah. If Jordan Davis, if we don't
final thing here, and to wrap up this Eagles Colts segment, everybody, if you're feeling down or negative, panicky about the Eagles, I saw a lot of it throughout the game and even after the game, man. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's not supposed to be 28-3 at halftime every single week. And I don't know if it's we let it get to our heads when we get this much positivity or winning culture on a sports team in this city.
Right.
But like, guys, there's a reason the Eagles have never started a season 8-0 before. It was the first time in franchise history. There's a reason every time they go 9-1, they've made the championship because it is a special year. They still lose games along the way. Just like when the Phillies lost the game in the playoffs and people were losing their freaking minds. We got to change the lineup, the pitching, guys, even if they win the World Series, and this was like in the divisional round, they're going to lose games throughout a series.
Yeah.
Like it happens.
I loved, I think it might have been Phil that tweeted it, or maybe he retweeted it, but it falls under the same line of what you're getting at. And like, who remembers the losses to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl year? Nobody remembers that, right? Nobody talks about that loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl year. Nobody talks about the other losses.
And those are losses.
The close win against the New York Giants that kind of changed the season. That's when we knew Jake Elliott was cool. Like, there's so many things that get forgotten along the path. You got to remember that we are going through a very tough path. Look at the Minnesota Vikings. Thank God we haven't lost like that this season. My God, that would hurt. 40-3? Now that's something to get a little alarmed. And maybe that's not even to get alarmed about, but that would hurt a little bit more than a close win against the Indianapolis Colts.
I will make a deal with everybody. I will make a deal right here, right now on the show. If the Eagles come out and look flat again, and the offense doesn't score more than 20, and they lose to Green Bay at home on Sunday night at the Link, I will have some concern for 3 or 4 straight weeks of mid-looking football, of the same mistakes happening. If they, if Devontae Smith catches a big play and fumbles next week, if Nick Sirianni continues to call plays the way he has the last 2 weeks, I will have some cause for concern. Until then, relax, sit back, enjoy the 9-1 win, and let's see how we look against Green Bay and come out against Green Bay on Sunday night.
I won't lie to you. I'm feeling an AJ Brown explosion on Sunday night
Jair
football,
Alexander.
man. I'm feeling it, bro. Like he's just, too much stuff has kind of gone against his way lately. It's time for him to bounce back. We know the type of player that he is, obviously. And that fumble
game, maybe I was just off on my prediction. Remember before the Washington game, I said this is his national TV come out.
Yeah.
Maybe I was off by 2 weeks. I don't know. But Scotty, let's get into another game that you just brought up that really took us by surprise, I would say.
Yeah,
and that is the Dallas Cowboys, and like I said, no one wanted to acknowledge it pregame, Scotty, but I told you. It's not a total negative if the Cowboys win the game with the Eagles gaining an extra game for the 1 seed in the NFC over Minnesota. But my God, forget the 1.5 point spread. Forget if you thought Minnesota was going to win outright. The line was disrespectful. We were questioning it on Turf Talk yesterday morning. This was a thumping. This was something I did not expect to see. They completely shut down Justin Jefferson defensively. Micah Parsons in that defensive front were dominant from start to finish. Dak Prescott was phenomenal. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott both got into the end zone multiple times. Dallas played a complete performance, and so badly that CBS had to switch the games in the second half because no one really cared to continue to watch this beatdown.
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. I had a feeling that there was a chance for Minnesota to have a letdown game. I felt that, but 40-3 thumping where they just can't even get anything going offensively. Like Kirk Cousins can't even get a pass off. It was an impressive performance by the Cowboys on the road. Obviously, there was some stuff feeding into this game that we weren't completely understanding, maybe as far as momentum and coming off that big win against Buffalo for Minnesota. Yeah, Dallas on the complete opposite end of the scale, coming off a big loss against Green Bay. They're upset. They're mad. What I would ask you, do you think it falls under that? Is this just a letdown game? Yeah. Or is this a little bit of exposure for Minnesota saying, if you run into a good defensive line, you're not going to have a chance? Because we've seen them against Dallas defensive line. We've seen them against Philly defensive line. Both pretty good defensive lines, especially Philly early on in the season. They were playing a little bit better, I would say, as far as the total unit. Maybe is that their weakness, their offensive line? Is that what we're looking at there? Or is that just kind of one of those fluke 40-3, like the Vikings are never going to put up 3 points again? Like,
I'm somewhere in the middle when it comes to Minnesota. Dude, are the Vikings frauds? I can't take it that far because I think the Vikings are still very formidable. I think their defense,
there's a case to make for it.
Here's what I'll say. There's a reason when you asked me 2 weeks ago, there's a reason when you asked me even after Minnesota beats Buffalo on the road last week, who do I view as the biggest threat in the NFC to the Eagles?
Look past them.
I look past them and I go to a wild card team like San Fran. I would put the Cowboys ahead of them as well. There's a reason for that. I never viewed them, no matter if they were 8-1 with big wins, I never viewed them as a legit Super Bowl contending team for the reason that KC says in the first sentence right there. Kirk Cousins. I just don't view him as a Super Bowl winning, as a championship caliber quarterback. With that being said, we can't take one, although extremely bad loss, as a complete, indictment of them because of what they just did to Josh Allen and Buffalo on the road a week ago. Meanwhile, Dallas lost to Aaron Rodgers a week ago. You know what I mean? So it's a week-to-week thing. It's easy to look at this beatdown and say, oh, well, the Vikings, they are not for real. But I never viewed them as Super Bowl real. So somewhere in the middle.
I think you bring up a good point because they don't have to be frauds for them to just have a bad matchup.
Yes.
And I think a bad matchup for the Vikings we see is a team that runs the football first.
I think San Fran,
good, solid defense.
There's a nice reason their first loss of the year, their only loss was against the Eagles, who can run the ball. With that pass rush,
Buffalo, that's a completely different dynamic than Dallas and Philly, right? The Buffalo is not known for running the ball. They're not even known really for getting after the quarterback per se. Obviously, they picked up Von Miller for those reasons. The case against Minnesota, and I've seen it made, I'm not going to say that I think they're frauds. Once again, there's a case you could make against all the top teams. You could phrase stats in a way that would make them look like frauds, right?
And
you can do it for
flaws.
each and every team.
And every team has been beaten and looks beatable at times.
If you look at Minnesota, this is the only case that I would make just to make them look a little suspect. Okay. You look at the Eagles on the season, plus 80 point differential. Plus 80. That means over the total of their games, they've scored 80 more points than their opposing teams. Minnesota is a -2 point differential in the season. That's a crazy jump. Jackson, it doesn't tell the whole story.
Was that the tweet with Jacksonville in it? I saw a tweet about
Jacksonville
that.
being
Jacksonville has a losing record, and they're like plus 11 point differential.
Jacksonville is plus 11. Yeah, that is correct. So.
Yeah.
Just to put it in perspective, it doesn't mean everything, right? That doesn't tell the whole story, and that's what I mean by.
Can I ask you a question with a stat like that? I think it does tell some of the story, but can you view that as kind of like a plus-minus stat in basketball for a player, like where it's meaningful, but it doesn't tell the whole tale sometimes?
Yeah, I would equate it to that
because I guess to the point, Scotty, when you get beat by 37. That's going to hinder the plus minus. And they've won a bunch of close games.
They have, yes.
The Washington game, they came from behind. The Buffalo game, they won in overtime. And that's just recent memory. And their 2 losses, they've gotten blown apart in both of them. So if you just take the 2 losses, you're already setting yourself back. Jesus, what did we beat them?
24-8 or 24-7.
We only scored 24. I thought we scored more, but you might be right.
So 16,
regardless,
17 points. So
you're already over a -50 at that point around. So
that does explain it in a sense. That's a good point, though. That's a good point. But yeah, I wouldn't go that far either, as far as to say they're frauds. I like picking on Minnesota fans just because we tend to own them. But
you know another fan base I like picking on?
Who's that?
The Dallas Cowboys fan base. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I can't stand that I'm even trying to, I'm giving you credit. I'm giving your team credit. Are they a threat to the Eagles? Yeah, they're a threat to the Eagles when they play that style of football. When the pass rush is going, when Dak's got 3 incompletions, when they're able to run the ball. Yes, they're a very good team when all things are going. Once again, here we are where you give the Cowboys an inch and they take a mile. When you give Cowboys fans an inch and they take a mile, next thing you know, back on Sports Talk, on television, on ESPN, on Sports Talk Radio, on Twitter, they win 1 game and they're a bigger threat in the NFC than the Eagles are. They're back in Super Bowl contention, like as if a week ago the sky wasn't falling in Dallas territory after they lost a 14-point lead to Aaron Rodgers and Packers. And then you watch the Packers get beat down at home against Tennessee, and it makes that loss for the Cowboys look even worse, as if the Eagles and the Cowboys already didn't match up. And we saw how that no Dak Prescott. I get that. But wasn't it a week ago people wanted Cooper Rush back under center, Scotty? Like, this is my point. You give them an inch and they take a mile. Slow the F down. You guys are a damn good football team. Would I 100% pick the Eagles in a playoff matchup? I wouldn't be 100% confident.
Right.
But relax, dude. Yeah. Like, my goodness.
And look. The Cowboys, they have a very good team. Like you said, they have a good team. We're not saying that they're not a good football team. Their record speaks for itself. The Giants, right? They're a tough team. I'm not going to go as far to say that they're up there in that elite status. But if they made the playoffs, I think it would be a tough game, right? I think any division game is going to be really tough for the Eagles. That's just as simple as it gets. But week by week, man, we cannot just jump from these extremes. Like, you got to do it consistently. You got to show it consistently. And I get your point, man. Just jumping from extremes. And we can take it week by week and figure it out. Everybody's talking about this Christmas Eve matchup. We got games to get to before it, man.
First of all,
I'm gonna cross that bridge when it arrives.
2 games. You already set back 2 games. So worry about your own shit. And then I quote tweet the one. There's Cowboys beat reporters, beat writers, and content creators that the Eagles look beat up. Bro, you got beat by Green Bay.
You literally got beat.
And
we
I know
it's
hot take culture. I know it's for ratings and viewership. I know it's the former Hall of Fame wide receiver for the very same team. But when I had to listen to Michael Irvin, who has actually been kind of level-headed because he has praised the Eagles a lot this year, But now you come on the show this morning after yesterday with an Eagles win. Now he's comparing, I don't know if you saw this, but they're comparing the Eagles win versus the Vikings compared to the Cowboys win versus the Vikings, which was more dominant.
Okay, so I want them to do that same thing when we go and beat the Green Bay Packers this Sunday. Like, let's bring that up again. Let's compare games against a different
or compare the very matchup where the Eagles played the Cowboys.
You know, I love it. I love it for the Cowboys because I hope they're doing the same thing in their locker room. I hope they're thinking that way because go ahead, blow your head up as big as you need to do, and you'll do the whole Cowboy thing just over again. So go ahead, build that confidence right over one game in Minnesota. A team that they've honestly had the better hand against anyways in the past couple of years. They beat Minnesota with Cooper Rush last year. So, like, you know what I mean? What are we talking about here? Like, I don't know. It's funny, man.
I just had to get that little man out because I'm so tired of seeing and hearing about it. Like I said, it
won't stop until we knock them out of the playoffs.
They take a mile.
And even then it won't stop, but it maybe we can just have an upper hand at that point. But I feel it won't stop until we actually knock the Cowboys out the playoffs. They come to the link because you're not winning the division, and we knock you out the playoffs. That's what end all of this.
Yeah. Or they play on a Saturday, they lose, and then we win on a Sunday in the playoffs, and it's like, oh, how's the couch feeling? Same story, okay.
Don't let it. They'll be playing the first weekend anyways. So.
We got another topic to get to, Scotty. Maybe the biggest storyline, the biggest takeaway, the biggest conversation coming out of the Sunday slate. Oh boy, problems in New York, and this one it's pretty fascinating, right? Because we don't care about the Jets, we don't pay that much attention to the Jets, but when you're talking about a former number 2 overall draft pick, just 2 short years ago, you're talking about a young, inexperienced team who has exceeded all of my expectations. They're in a playoff spot. Their defense has been lights out. Their head coach has impressed me. They had their star running back go down. They replaced him with another good option. And for weeks on weeks now, they've been winning in spite of their hopeful franchise quarterback in Zach Wilson in that market, Scotty. And he comes out yesterday against New England in Foxborough against Bill Belichick. And obviously we talked about this matchup. We both picked New England to win. Mac Jones was terrible and somehow he outperformed Zach Wilson yesterday. Zach Wilson threw for 9 completions. Excuse me. He threw for 9 completions yesterday. In the second half, New York, Scotty, tallied -2 yards, I believe it was, or he threw for -21 yards in the second half. He couldn't complete passes behind the line of scrimmage. And they lose with a walk-off punt return 10-3 on the road against the New England Patriots and Mac Jones.
That would be so infuriating.
And this wasn't even the worst of it. It wasn't their performance. By the way, I believe he only has 4 passing touchdowns this season. Okay?
I can look it up right now. 4 and 5 interceptions.
This wasn't even the worst of it, Scotty. Then the young kid comes out post-game and he's asked, defense does a hell of a job. Defense holds the Patriots to 3 points the entire game. He gets asked if he feels like he left the defense down. Now, I know he's young. I know he's inexperienced. Maybe he's insecure. I don't know what the case may be. Maybe he's just being honest and he's that rock-headed. I have no idea. But he's asked that question, and any level-headed quarterback, any leader, any man, because this was such a boy answer, such a boy statement, any man would have taken responsibility and being like, you're goddamn right I did. Through 9 completions. I couldn't complete a pass behind the line of scrimmage. We scored 3 points. That's on me. We gotta get right. We gotta get better. He just said no. He said no. And I'm being honest here, Scotty. I'm surprised he didn't get jumped in the locker room. Because if I'm on that defense, I'm trying to get my hands on that kid when he walks through that door. So what are your thoughts? Not what are your thoughts, but my goodness. How do you feel about this whole situation? Then it makes it even better. Another wrinkle in the story. Before we go live, Robert Saleh reports that he's not closing the door on sitting Josh Allen this week.
Yeah.
Or Zach Wilson, excuse me.
Zach Wilson. I was about to say Kyle Wilson. I don't know where I got that from, but yeah, Zach Wilson. No, it's very concerning, I should say. Coming from, the guy that Ocho Cinco compared to Patrick Mahomes in training camp this season. Yeah, all right. But it's concerning, man. You're supposed to be the leader of the locker room, and we can take this to like an example leader, right? Jalen Hurts. I mean, we see him every single day. That would never come out of his mouth. That would never, ever come out of his mouth. And it is, like you said, it's a little
man's mouth.
It's a little boy answer. It's a loser answer. It's a loser mentality. It feeds into that. And if I'm Robert Saleh, you look at the way Robert Saleh leads. There's no way he can agree with that mindset and that type of lack of
entitled answer too. It's just entitled.
I'm here. I'm first round pick.
Yeah,
you're not going to bench
me.
A
spoiled, bratty kid who was the shit growing up, was the shit coming out of college. He had the pro day, crazy throw. Number 2 overall. He's in New York City, right? It just reaks of that. And I'm telling you, it's disappointing because I think the craziest thing that I want to throw to you is the fact that the New York Jets are basically in a position where they have to go find another franchise quarterback now. I think the book's written, Scotty. I think you know the answer, not just by on-field production, but by that answer. You know he is not reliable. He is not the leader of this locker room, and you cannot move forward next year with Zach Wilson as your hopeful franchise quarterback.
Absolutely. And for now, honestly, there's no point in playing him, right? Joe Flacco gives you a better chance of making the playoffs.
Would you want to play for him?
Joe Flacco gives you a better chance at making the playoffs, regardless of his personality and his answers.
Right.
He doesn't have talent, right? He's not good enough to even act like that. So, like, on top of that, like, Joe Flacco's a better option than him.
Flacco was that speaks 350 yards in the first 4 weeks.
That speaks for itself. He literally still has more passing touchdowns than him. He has 5 passing touchdowns. Zach Wilson has 4. Joe Flacco hasn't played since like week 4. Like it has gotten to that point. It's sad for New York Jets fans, whatever the case may be. You need to go out and get a quarterback. How do you do that when they're playing? So I shouldn't say well, but they're literally fourth in their division.
Pretty damn, dude, that defense
they're 6-4.
Is very, very good.
It's very good. And it's sad. It's kind of sad from a Jets standpoint.
What you get, Abe? What you get over there? Abe definitely went and grabbed himself an early Thanksgiving. What do you get? The gobbler? He went and got the gobbler. You know he did.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Enjoy that for me, Abe. I'm hungry as hell, by the way. But no, you look at the Jets, man, and I look at it from the standpoint. I don't feel bad for like New York fans. Obviously, we're not brother and sister with New York fans. But from a franchise that has a losing history, to see what they were doing this season, despite
to the other team,
despite Zach Wilson, and now you have to kind of reset. We're in the middle of this nice season, probably the best season that we've had in years, and we don't have a quarterback that we can rely on. We don't have a quarterback for the future. That's just got to be demoralizing. They're now 4th in that division after being number 2. I mean, it's kind of sad.
It turkey is, man.
Hey, turkey is getting set for Thanksgiving. So same thing.
Listen, I got a hot topic that I don't think a lot of people are ready for.
You don't like turkey?
It's not that I dislike it. It's I really don't care for it, and I
want a ham.
You
don't like ham either.
No, I like lunch meat. I like lunch meat ham.
Rotisserie chicken.
Nah, all I'll say is that Thanksgiving dinner is a little overrated. I'm going to throw that out to the world. Listen, I eat it. I eat it, and I like the fact that it's basically like a once a year kind of thing in my household. But it's so basic. It's so what are we talking about over here, Scotty? We're talking about we got turkey, we got mashed potatoes. I love stuffing. Stuffing's good, but we got stuffing. Carrots and vegetables. Like I don't like cranberry sauce. I'm not that guy. So it's
baked mac and cheese.
No. And you know
baked
we
beans?
do. I'm pretty sure we don't like baked beans. I'm pretty sure we get the green bean casserole. I don't eat that either.
I don't do the green bean casserole. My girl likes the green bean casserole. I'm not a fan. You know what would set Thanksgiving off for me? It really is the turkey for me that's underwhelming. That's just like it's so like bland. Like I do eat it,
and it fills you up, bro.
I'll put some gravy on
it.
You ever see people
like my grandpa? You ever seen people just put down like 4 plates on Thanksgiving? I don't know how you do it.
But I would rather what would set Thanksgiving off for me and just make it a complete meal. I would absolutely love it if it was just a steak instead of a turkey. I would rather have a steak meal. Put steak with everything else that goes with Thanksgiving: mashed potatoes, gravy, baked mac and cheese. Now we got a meal we're talking about. The turkey just doesn't do it, man.
Nah,
Ham.
and that's why.
I'm not a fan.
Ham, I don't care for either, bro. Lunch meat, I'm here for it all. But here's the thing: the Christmas dinner. Do you do ham on Christmas dinner or Christmas Eve? I should say.
Yeah. We usually do ham for both, just because we like ham a little bit more than turkey. Has a little bit more flavor.
See, but like when we go to my uncle's on Christmas, right? And for last year he reverted back to ham, and I was pissed because for the longest time we did a lot of Italian, so chicken parm, lasagna, sausage. Oh, come on, bro! And now you gotta take me back to ham.
I feel that. I feel that, man. I feel that.
Come on,
I'm with you. I'm with you on the meat for Thanksgiving. The meat, it isn't choice, man. I'll go with a steak, something a little more juicy and flavorful. Yeah. I'm with you on that for sure.
For sure. And the last thing I'll say about Zach Wilson is, Scott, if I would have told you in the beginning of the season that the New York Jets would have been 6-4 through 11 weeks, what would you have said the reason was for that?
Zach Wilson, the franchise quarterback.
Exactly. And they're winning in spite of the kid. And there's no way. And here's the thing. The fact that Robert Saleh comes out and says that Monday publicly, there's no way he plays now. There's no shot that he plays this Sunday.
And bro, they honestly shouldn't. Like, you have a chance here. Like, you do have a chance here.
This is it.
I like it. I like it. I will say though, like, for the Jets, you have a chance here. You have to bench him. You have to. Joe Flacco gives you a better chance at winning. And I think it's as simple as that for the Jets. They have to think past, what's going on. Because there's no way you're getting the first pick in the draft, right? You can't like tank now and get Bryce Jordan or the quarterback from Ohio State.
CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud is slipping my mind. You're not going to be able to tank and get to that level of getting those guys, right? So you kind of got to go for it and try to make the playoffs this year. But that's a bad spot, man. I hate that. I hate that for any franchise, aside from the Cowboys. But
so real quick, I have a couple more points to get to, and before we get to the final one, just a game or two to gloss over. In our own division, in the NFC East, the New York Giants, 31-18 L at the hands of Dan Campbell. 3 straight, Scotty. 3 straight. Winning is becoming a factor in Motown. Who the hell pictured that happening?
Job is safe.
They have leapfrogged Green Bay in their own division now. This is getting crazy. But yes, man, 31-18. Giants lose. They are now 7-3, which the overall record is great. But they've dropped 2 of their last 3 games to Seattle and Detroit. I know Seattle is at the top of their own division right now, but I think we feel the same way about them in a bigger scope.
What's that tell you about
Go ahead.
What's that tell you about the Giants?
Exactly.
What that tells me, 100%.
Like, you want to talk fraudulent, but in terms of record, they are the definition of that. And everyone knows how bad that Detroit's defense is this year, statistically and literally. Saquon Barkley, man, 15 carries for 22 rushing yards. And Scotty, if I'm being honest, I know he threw 2 interceptions. I get it. I kind of feel bad for Daniel Jones at this point. My man, 27-44, over 340 passing, threw a passing touchdown, ran for 1, ran for 7 carries for 50 yards, averaged over 7 yards a carry, and they are so depleted offensively and skill position wise. I believe, who was it, Wan'Dale Robinson or somebody just
tore his ACL yesterday.
Yeah, he's out for the year. Like they trade away Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay. No one even wants to see play anymore. They just continue to stack up injuries. They're going to be calling you or I soon to go play up in North Jersey.
Yeah, and that's kind of the blueprint, right? Make Daniel Jones beat you, make him beat you through the air, right? And that's kind of what it looks like.
But he's kind of like been doing it though with limited resources. Yeah. Like that's why I'm saying I feel bad somehow, some way. No, I don't think he has a bright future in this league in New York and wherever he decides to go. But I mean, my God. Okay, Darius Slayton had 5 for 86. Richie James, Isaiah Hoggins, Lawrence Cager, Matt Breida had to play a lot out of the backfield. I mean, Scott, that's just that might be worse than anything we had to witness like Carson Wentz play with here in Philly when they were.
Those were his 2 first interceptions in the last 6 games. So he's been playing clean too. So yeah, give a little bit of credit to Daniel Jones. It's definitely not on him, man.
So the last game before I get into my last takeaway, basically with you, Obviously, Buffalo was able to bounce back. They come away with a win against Cleveland, 31-23. We said it didn't have to be pretty. They started off slow, but ultimately Josh Allen and them come away with a win. They score 31. That's big for them. The Commanders, was this 5 straight for Washington now? Or 4, 23-10 victory in Houston. They keep themselves in the wild card picture, man, which is pretty crazy.
They have won 5 out of their last 6.
Okay, yeah. So that's big for them and Ron Rivera, and bad for Carson Wentz. And ultimately, finally, here we go. When does Nathaniel Hackett get fired? When?
I mean, is it going to happen? I don't know, but they dropped the game in overtime to the Las Vegas Raiders, so a walk-off to Devontae Adams.
Hold on. I need
and
to.
They had the lead the most of the game, man.
I need to find this tweet. I believe it was by Nick Wright. It was a statistic about the Denver Broncos and their offense. And please let me find this for you, because it is, Scotty, it might be the craziest thing you hear today, and I'm not joking. Let's see. No, a lot of Patrick Mahomes so far. Let's see. But like, here's my point. We talked yesterday about how bad Josh McDaniels has been, right? And how they really can't afford to even move on from him, right? But Nathaniel Hackett has been worse. And here it is. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Apologies if someone else already tweeted this, but the Broncos would now be, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
9-1 if they scored 18 points in regulation every game this season. 9-1. If they scored 18 points in regulation this season in every game, they would be 9-1.
Yeah.
That's how bad Nathaniel Hackett's play calling has been, how bad Russell Wilson has been, how bad this team has just been. And think about that defensively. That's how good their defense has been, that they are holding teams under 18 points per game, and their offense still can't get it done. Next, guess what they do? They cut Melvin Gordon. Like that's the answer. That's the solution. That is the solution.
After Chase Edmonds goes down.
It's to cut Melvin Gordon, right? Like he's some sort of scapegoat there. That statistic was the craziest thing that I took away from yesterday with another loss in Denver.
I'm not surprised though, honestly, man.
And they would have the best record in football.
I looked at what they've done this season yesterday before we kind of went live, and that's kind of what I made my pick of the Raiders off of. Literally, they've only eclipsed 20 points twice this season. Like that's ridiculous when you have the talent that they've had. They don't really have it now because they're so beat up, and Russell Wilson hasn't been that good. But coming into the season, could you have ever imagined that they would only score 20 plus points twice?
No.
In the first 11 weeks? It's crazy. And that was ultimately why I picked the Raiders in this game. They have a better offense that can score more points at the end of the day. And shout out to the Raiders for getting a W. They happen to just not be the most disappointing team, right? They're the second most, maybe the third most behind the Packers.
And then
argue. But
sticking in that AFC West division, obviously those are the two bottom feeders. And then Sunday Night Football last night, I texted you just, wow, the way that Justin Herbert and the Chargers came out and kind of stuck it to the Kansas City defense early on in the first half. You thought for a second there, and it ultimately was a great game. It took a Patrick Mahomes Herculean effort and a Travis Kelce Herculean effort to find a way to win there last night.
Yeah.
But ultimately the Chiefs continue to stand themselves apart from the rest of their division and a lot of other teams in this league. My main takeaway, and it's basically I have a question mark at the end of it for you. And what do I mean by this is not, is he the runaway at this moment? I know we're huge supporters of Jalen Hurts in the MVP race. I get it. But is Patrick Mahomes the runaway MVP at this point of the season right now? Josh Allen, for the last couple of weeks, has kind of played himself out of that argument. Lamar Jackson, especially through the air, has been really, really poor for the last month or so. Yeah. Jalen Hurts, while they continue to win games, isn't putting up the overall numbers through the air. You look at Patrick Mahomes. Not only are the Chiefs winning games, Patrick Mahomes has thrown for over 3,200 yards so far this season, 28 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and has over a 107 quarterback rating this year. Jalen Hurts, 2,400 passing yards, 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It's a very good ratio, and 106.5 quarterback rating. So Jalen Hurts isn't far off, and I know they had the better record, but at this point Is Mahomes the runaway MVP?
It's tough. It's
Abe's
tough.
saying yes.
It's tough. Clear cut, I would say yes. Runaway, I wouldn't go that far just yet, although maybe after 2 more weeks, we might be there. From the Jalen Hurts standpoint, I definitely get what you're saying, and he's not in the. He would be in the top 3, I think, of MVP candidates right now. Jalen Hurts, right? But how far is 1 from 2? I'm just trying to think through Jalen Hurts' like running efforts on top of his passing. It still doesn't match up to what Patrick Mahomes is doing overall. The only player that I would maybe go to next, and it's not Josh Allen, not Jalen Hurts, it's Tua. Only because
numbers, they're very good.
You have to tone them down a little bit because he did miss 2-3 games, so you have to like ratio it in a sense. 18-3 touchdown interception ratio, undefeated when he plays.
71 completion percentage.
They just had a bye week this week as well, and he's still 15th in passing yards. So it's close. It's getting close to that. I would say that. If it's not run away for Patrick Mahomes, it's getting very close. And I would say clear cut. That is the way I would phrase it. But maybe that's the same thing.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah. Because runaway
maybe that's the same thing.
The rest of the season, I meant right now. Would you put Tua ahead of Jalen right now?
It's really tough. They're neck and neck for me.
I bring this up not only for what Mahomes did last night, but I saw on Eagles Twitter after the Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown for the win, a lot of people were saying Jalen has to be the MVP right now, right? I know we all want him to be. And the fact that he is even
has to be no.
The fact that he is even in the conversation is the biggest win we could have ever hoped for heading into this season. But I think Pat, I don't know, dude. I just think everything in consideration.
He's got the narrative to go with it, too. Mahomes has the narrative to go with it. His receivers are beat up. No Tyreek Hill. The narrative falls into his lap as well. Not to say that it isn't right, because Tyreek Hill is a huge loss. It fits. And that is why, he's clear cut. You could go as far to say it's runaway right now. 28-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's a little, we got to talk levels here. Yeah. There's levels.
No, and I do.
The Eagles have a better surrounding, like they have a better defense than the Chiefs, right? This is stuff we have to take into account here.
Yeah, but to the point, if the Chiefs drop 2 more games along the way and the Eagles finish, I don't know, 14-3, maybe. I don't know what the situation would have to be, but to Casey's point here, and this is not a knock on Jalen whatsoever, but it is true. He started off great with the numbers and the big playability and everything like that. The winning has not stopped. That plays a role, and he's continued to progress as a leader, as a passer, as a quarterback in this league, checking off boxes week in and week out. So it is not a knock, but he has not been statistically phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know he's got a couple games over 300 yards and he had the 3 a passing touchdown night. But this here, Abe's comment, he's been really good, really good. But if you're talking MVP versus Mahomes, he has not been great enough number wise.
I think that's
past Mahomes.
It's a good way to put it. I don't know, because like,
somehow people will find a way to say that I just knocked Jalen Hurts.
Somehow he's in the MVP conversation. Like, he is in the combo. Like I said, I would put him in
probably top 3
top 4 options for MVP this season. And I'm looking at he's 12th in passing yards. He's 9th in passing touchdowns.
He's
second in interceptions.
The best record in football.
5th in QBR. So, I mean, he's putting up really good numbers. And then you got to add in the rushing statistics as well. It's tough, but Mahomes is, we can leave it at that. Mahomes is the number 1 right now by far.
I would tend to agree with you, man. But looking across the rest of the slate, I don't really have anything else that sticks out to me. I don't know if you do. Obviously, there was a clunker with the Baltimore and Carolina game, 13-3. Just I don't even know.
I will say the one thing I'll say about the Ravens, they've been somewhat underwhelming. Each week I'm like, is it coming?
Wait for them.
Their offense has been underwhelming.
You wait for them to take that next level. We talked about it with the updated power rankings, right? They're right around that 5 or 6 spot.
Yeah.
You don't lump them down with the teams slightly below them, like the Giants and the Seahawks and the Jets, but you don't have them in that tier with the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Bills, right?
Right.
They're somewhere in the middle ground, and I think it all comes back to what level Lamar Jackson's playing at. In the first month of football, he might have been the best quarterback in the league. He was phenomenal. He was leading the MVP race. He has been poor. Trust me, I have him in 2 fantasy leagues. Not that fantasy decides everything, but numbers tell a story. And when my man can't throw for over 160, 170 multiple weeks in a row, he's throwing interceptions. They only score 13 against the freaking Panthers. That's a problem.
And you got to look at this Ravens offense. I get it. I'm not trying to make excuses for Lamar at all, but who's he throwing the ball to? This Rashad Bateman's out. He has no number 1 wide receiver. It's nobody's fault but Baltimore. It's I'm not feeling sorry for any of them, but as we get down the stretch here and we talk about the Ravens and their chances to win everything, Mark Andrews is beat up. Where do you go in the passing game when everybody starts stuffing the run in the playoffs? It's going to be a question mark down the line for sure with the Ravens.
And their defense has shown clear flaws. Giving up big plays, the inability to stop the run at times. So Baltimore is in a very weird spot in terms of what they can do. And meanwhile, I know they won, but Cincinnati got the job done in a 37-30 win against Pittsburgh yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see that race. But the fact that you pointed out since he's scheduled to me on the show before, that's what keeps me away from leaning them in the long haul. But if Lamar Jackson can't wake up, if they can't get healthy skill position-wise, Baltimore's going to be in trouble, and they might be an early out again, man, especially when you look at teams who they're not the Buffalo Bills, they're not the Kansas City Chiefs, but you have the Tennessee Titans who are just a solid,
literally Tennessee is who I was thinking of. If they ran into the Tennessee Titans,
they're losing that game.
In the playoffs, they are losing that game because that's just a much tougher team right now. They have an identity. And that's honestly the last thing I wanted to look at before we get out of here, honestly. We'll obviously make our picks for Monday Night Football, but just giving an update on the playoff picture right now and kind of taking a look at these type of things as we get closer. So in the AFC, you do have the Chiefs at 8-2 right now. You have the Miami Dolphins, 2nd seed in the AFC, 7-3, Tennessee 7-3, Baltimore 7-3, Buffalo 7-3. Then you have the Patriots 6-4, and then the Bengals 6-4 at the
Jets
7th
are
seed.
6-4 too.
They are 6-4. They're knocking on the door, and then the Chargers are right behind them at 5-5. I mean, I'm looking at these teams in the AFC. Why couldn't New England go and beat the Ravens? I'm not saying they would.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they would, but why couldn't they? If they turn Lamar over, if they do, they have a tough defense. So I don't know. The Ravens, they're sketching me out a little bit down the stretch here, but they are winning. Sure. I'll give them the credit for that. They're winning nonetheless.
For sure. But I'm with you though, man. They to me, even if they win their division and they're the 3 or the 4 seed, I would, out of the 7 teams in the postseason, I would probably rank in the AFC. They wouldn't be higher than 5. They
would play Buffalo first round right now.
They might be the 6th best team in the AFC out of the 7. If you're talking who gets that 7th spot, because ultimately, let's just say the 4 seeds ended the way they did with Miami winning their division and Baltimore winning their division. Buffalo is going to take the first wild card spot, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I believe Cincinnati, although the schedule is brutal, I still think Cincinnati grabs a wild card spot. I feel like the Patriots find a way out of the wild card, whether that's because of if the Jets make a quarterback change, if that's because the Chargers continue to get healthy and win games. But I don't know. Abe's saying he needs that Monday Night Football parlay, Scotty. So I legitimately have not cooked anything up yet, but he said money's in our hands, guys. So hold on, before we wrap up, let's see what's going on tonight.
I'll let you know what I got in the books, man.
And Arizona.
Go
ahead.
The thing about this game tonight is that I just don't know where to go in San Fran because they have so many options, right?
Yeah.
So you want to stay away from touchdowns, I feel.
Do you though? I feel like yards is where I stay away from. I know.
Who do you think scores tonight? I guess I would ask you. CMC?
I would tell you CMC, but at -155, unless you're parlaying it with something, I don't love it by itself. And then you're right. I mean, you are right. You never know what if Debo's going to get in the end zone, if Elijah Mitchell gets a goal line look over CMC.
Right.
Kittle, Ayuk, they got a lot of options. So it is more difficult than you would think. I was hoping CMC would not be a -155 anytime touchdown.
Yeah. I did. I went on FanDuel. I did smash the Dr. Disrespect boost, and that was Christian McCaffrey, so CMC 1+ touchdown, George Kittle 25+ receiving yards, and Deebo Samuel 40+ receiving yards at +350. So I smashed that. My other parlay that I have on this game, I actually did dabble in the touchdown scores here, but this is kind of a moonshot in a sense. Not at +541. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but I went with a Deebo Samuel touchdown, okay. DeAndre Hopkins 50+ receiving yards, Deebo 25+ receiving yards, and a James Conner touchdown for Arizona. And that comes out to +541. So I did smash that. That's more or less based on my fantasy, what I need tonight. So I'm hoping they can get some stuff done for me. McBride, I like that, Abe. I like that McBride pick for a touchdown. My only concern, Colt McCoy. He played well last week.
Abe, if I have to give you a best bet for tonight, but you're not going to love it because of the juice, it's just not enough juice for me to give it to you. But Colt McCoy under in passing yards. It's -130, so it's not terrible, but it's not positive money. He's under 221.5. San Fran on average gives up under 198. They held Herbert to under 220 last game. I don't see McCoy being able to do it, but hell, crazier stuff happens on primetime football, so maybe that's the wrong move. I was trying to see if I could parlay a CMC touchdown with McCoy under. Let's see, McCoy. All right, here you go. Let me give you a Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown scorer and Colt McCoy under 244.5 passing yards, +195 on DraftKings.
I like that.
So, Abe, that's mine for you. All right.
I like that.
Let me know. Let us know what you roll with on Twitter.
240, 244. Yeah, because I'm showing 217.5 on FanDuel here. Maybe I'm in the wrong section.
Well, for DraftKings, when you go to passing props, they have the multiple options over under. So it starts at 169.5. You can get under 244.5 at -175. If you want to go a little higher and still have plus money, you can take him under 269.5 and it'll still be +140. So maybe that's the better one. Maybe take him under 270 and a CMC touchdown. It's +140 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think I may smash it because I was looking at under 217.5. I feel like that's playing it a little too tight. And then 25 receiving yards for Christian McCaffrey +150, but 217.5. I feel like that's playing it real tight compared to what you got there. I'd probably roll with yours more.
There's 244, and you can take under 270 as well. Under 269.5 and a CMC touchdown +140 on DraftKings. So
I would roll with that. If you're gonna ride one, I would ride that one.
Yeah, the high, just a little safer. Yeah, I don't care about the +190 to +140. So I would take them under 270 and CMC touchdown, and that would be my best bet of the night.
I like it.
Listen, maybe if you're feeling it, fade me. Or you could take his over once something as well if you think he cooks a little bit tonight. I just know how real that San Fran defense is.
A lot of people came out and were kind of saying, the offense looked better with Colt McCoy. Now, obviously, they were going against a Rams team that did not have Matthew Stafford, so it's not like you were, having to race against that offense. But I don't know. They said, there's a lot of experts I was seeing on Twitter just kind of mentioning how Kyler Murray always has like an attitude to kind of, go against Cliff Kingsbury and what he believes. So something to consider, right? But San Fran's defense is really good.
I was going to say, I definitely feel that, but that's also not the 49er defense. Them 49ers defense / special teams could find the end zone too tonight. You never know. But guys, Scotty, I think that is going to wrap up this Monday night edition of NFL Turf Talk here on DSM Media. And as always, we are brought to you by our friends over at Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows. Rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area, having multiple award-winning barbers and being able to handle any style of cut, adult or kid. Take a look at some of their work. Don't forget to check them out at gentsbarberlounge.com to book your appointment today. Also, you can check our friends over at shopluxeden.com out. 25% off and free shipping. Use promo code DSM at checkout. Again, at shopluxeden.com, 25% off and free shipping with promo code DSM at checkout. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM Media, have a great rest of your night.